Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the September 11th Long Hill Township Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Long Hill Township Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was sent to the Echo Sentinel and Daily Record on September 15th, 2022. Notices were posted on the bulletin board in the first floor entrance of the School District Administration Building, Gillette, New Jersey. Notices were filed with the Township Clerk, and notices were mailed to all persons who have requested individual notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Butler?
Here.
Mr. DeJamos?
Here.
Mrs. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Here.
Mrs. McLennan? Mrs. Nyquist?
Here.
Mrs. Rubelo?
Here.
Mrs. Case?
Here. Today is September 11th. I know that there were many discussions and activities that happened throughout the district, but we did want to recognize this day and have a moment of silence in support of the 22nd anniversary. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alexis for the introduction of new staff members.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, we thought it would be nice to invite some of our new staff members here this evening. So what I would like to do is I will read your name and talk about your position, and if you could stand so that you could be recognized by the board and the audience, that would be great. We also have some folks that weren't able to make it, and I'll read their names too. So the RSVP list, I'll begin with that. And just so everyone knows, the board in particular, we had a terrific new teacher orientation on August 29th. We have a great group. We started off as a group with some learning activities to sort of underscore the importance of educational excellence in the district. We then moved on to some more training, technology, and some other areas with special services. And then the group broke up with their supervisors and principals and spent the afternoon learning more practical information, building-based practical information, and asking questions. So I'm excited about this group. And if I could begin with Caroline Cork, French teacher at Central. There she is. Welcome, Caroline. Catherine Tatajan. Kat is a special education teacher at Gillette. We're very pleased to have her.
That's nice.
Catherine Miner. Special education teacher at Central. Welcome, Catherine. Jennifer Kutch. 7th grade science teacher at Central. Anna Ritchie. Paraprofessional at Gillette. Thank you for being here, Anna. Did Gabriella, yes, Gabriella's here. Gabriella Rebello Martins, paraprofessional at Gillette. She'll be starting in October. Ernie Monaco, special education teacher at Central. There's Ernie. Welcome, Ernie. And Frank Murgatroyd, who wasn't at the new teacher orientation and hasn't begun yet, but he will be our new facilities manager in October. Thanks for being here, Frank. Did Kevin make it? Kevin Crowley. I don't know that he did not. I do not see him. Physical education teacher at Central. And James Bastardo was a maybe, but I don't see him in the audience. He's actually one of our new couriers and substitute bus drivers. We also have Tiffany Atkinson, guidance counselor at Gillette and Millington, who was unable to be here, but I want to recognize her. Dom Attia, our assistant business administrator in the district office. Eve Justice, paraprofessional at Millington. Karen Rowenbeck, paraprofessional at Central. Stephanie Matthews, part-time secretary at Millington. And Jim Corcoran, the other half of our courier and sub-bus driver duo, working for the district. So thank you all for being here. And I'd like to get a picture if I could. Folks, I know you probably don't want to do this, but could you come up front? We'll take a quick picture.
I don't know.
you want me
George,
to
do you
take
need
it
us,
for you?
do you want us to
You wanna
be
take it
part of
here?
it?
Do you want me to
Well,
take
you
it?
tell us, I don't know, I
No.
mean, I'm not,
Well, there should be a picture with just you, too. And
Yeah, let's take a
You and
picture of
them.
you.
Just you and them.
I have enough exposure.
all right,
I hate sitting up.
yeah, we can kind of squeeze in. Mark can't see us, that's the rule of thumb. I'll do this.
Don't let your fingers be there.
Oh, no, stop. Don't be silly.
I do this at every national park when I take pictures of families. Don't.
Bravo, bravo. Excellent, excellent work. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, God, if you wouldn't laugh, you'd cry. Well, thank you, and nice to meet everybody, and welcome to Long Hill. You believe it or not, I know it's hard to end the summer and get back to business, but I have a fifth grader and a second grader, and they have a bigger spring in their step since school started, believe it or not, and they had a great summer. All of the things they do in the summer, I didn't do like my 18 years of life, and they really are happy to be back to school, and it's nice to see. Communications.
Yeah, as far as communications to the entire board, we had an email about transportation, and we subsequently received a follow-up a day later thanking us and citing some positive improvements.
Great. Thank you. All right, board committee and liaison reports. I'm going to start with Karen, who I also want to thank. She is our new finance chair, so thank you for taking on that added responsibility.
You're welcome. For the Morris County Ed Services Commission meeting, there was a meeting, excuse me, an August meeting, which I attended as a virtual. I do believe that I might have presented on that already, but just to go real quick, they, believe it or not, handle 679 transportation routes, which is a 10% decrease from previous year because they've had a decrease in students. Their average increase across those 679 routes is 16%. That's across all those is a 16% increase. There was additional emergency aid provided to non-public schools. They will again be administering it for the Board of Education, and they receive a commission, I'll say, based upon what they're going to be spending out. And concern still goes with Central School, and they are moving ahead to enact something through our Congress for them to be able to purchase the building, and then they can be more free about what they can do, because their enrollment is going to be, they're going to lose 9 students this coming graduation. 2 of those students were extended for 2 years based upon the pandemic. So it would be hard pressed for them to get 9 replacements, so they know it's going to be another downturn. There will be a meeting this Wednesday, again, a virtual meeting, and I will be attending that. We had a finance committee meeting, and I'll briefly go through some of the things. At the time, and this was, excuse me, in the beginning of September, they began an audit, and Robin is going to be giving more detail about that, okay? It appears that there was some mold concerns in some of the classrooms in Millington. and work was done. Emergency air sampling, wipe downs, and dehumidifiers were purchased, and it is basically under control. Fall athletic transportation has been determined. We got a driver and the bus. The free lunch program is underway. There are 44, at this stage, 44, I'll say families or students that are being served by that. And another benefit of our shared services, it's going to keep coming. Bedminster seemed to be going through remodeling of their business offices, and there were file cabinets that were made available, and it was very timely because Robin was looking to get file cabinets because of the need, obviously, to do filing. So they are donating it to us, and that's one of the resolutions on the agenda. And the bills list was reviewed, and I'm sure everything is okay. I was not at the bills list review. And perhaps you could just talk about the vendor over the 44,000 threshold when you, okay, I would appreciate it. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Karen? No? Okay, Danielle?
Yes, I have communication from the PTO. So the PTO welcomed back all the staff with their bagel breakfast last Thursday. And a reminder to all parents, food day orders should be in tonight by midnight. Late orders cannot be accepted. And this is for food days September through November. The first PTO general meeting will be held on Wednesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. in Millington Media Center. All are welcome to attend. They are collecting responses on the Genesis parent portal to allow the district to share parent contact information with the PTO until the end of the month. The data will then be uploaded to the membership toolkit database for the PTO online directory, formerly known as the Buzz Books. Hopefully, they hope to have the access to the PTO members by the beginning of the October. If anyone has any questions to the PTO, please feel free to email them at lhtpto@gmail.com. The next meeting's dates will be September 27th, October 25th, November 29th, December 20th, if needed, January 31st, February 28th, March 27th, April 24th, May 29th. And again, they're all 7 p.m. at the Millington Media Center. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Danielle? No? Okay, Anne?
The governance committee met on August 28th. We started the discussion of the process to revise the district mission and vision statement, which at the moment is wordy, and also just wanting to check that it aligns with what the goals are within the community and the school community for the students. So the process will be something that will be occurring over the next few months, and looking again to involve feedback from the various stakeholders in the community as we work on the process. We also discussed the process of replacing the vacant board position, which is a focus of tonight's meeting, you know, the questions for the interview and so on in that organization. We discussed the revision of district goals and the languages, and Mr. Alexis has since the meeting shared out with the board some of those changes in language that we had. There's an analytical tool that we had looked over it's for committees and to see how the committees are functioning. And I think the question for the governance committee at the meeting was, is this something we wanted to push out to the various committees to use to look analytically at the committees or not? Would it be a useful tool? And we decided to place it on our next agenda for the governance committee to go through. It looks at questions such as, you know, do our committees have the appropriate administrator aligned with, you know, the committee work and so on. So that's something that we'll be adding to our next agenda. And then we had a discussion of our committee goals, but we did not solidify the goals as we wanted to wait until we had full member attendance for the next committee.
Okay. Any questions for Anne? No? Okay. Alex?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. The Building and Grounds Committee met on Friday, September 8th. It was Adele Valentin, Mark Persana, and I in attendance. We originally met at Central School to go through much of the work that had been done there. But I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Persina for always making himself available. On September 1st, I was driving to work, and I decided to drive by Millington School, and I recognized his pickup truck there. So I pulled in, broke into the school building with the help of someone else, and tracked him down in the middle of one of his projects. So it was wonderful to see him, and we had an impromptu meeting on September 1st to just go over all the work that he pridefully had worked on over the summer. And I just wanted to go through that list, but also give him a shout out because of him always making himself available and taking so much pride in the projects that he has undertaken. So at Gillette School, there was additional waterproofing done at door 2, which is, I think, on the eastern end of the school where the pickup is done. There was a lot of work that was done there, but there was additional waterproofing done for that exterior door. Room 10 received interior renovations that I can't wait to see myself. But essentially, it's taking a more modern approach to the build-out of the classroom space. We're still waiting on replacement furniture for that classroom. And there's some replacement playground equipment that was scheduled, I think, for this past week. So we need an update on whether or not that has been completed. Millington School saw a replacement of the upper sidewalk. We had done the expansion of the driveway, let's call it, in the front of the school last year. But the upper sidewalk, which is the sidewalk that runs along the facade of the school, that was replaced and renewed, and there was an expansion of a pad that can accommodate a picnic table for teachers and other waiting students. Quite a bit of interior painting and patching, exterior soffit and trim was basically maintained or re-primed and painted. Replacement of a parking lot light that we're still waiting on order, but that's by the basketball court on the south side of the school. And we're looking at doing the infield renovation of that baseball softball field. For Central Middle School, which saw the most improvements over the course of the summer, there was a replacement of the entire fire alarm system, which I'm told Principal Vitarello is thrilled about. Renovation of 3 staff laboratories that were in a very dungeon-like condition before when we'd seen it, but are now much enhanced. There were interior renovations done to several classrooms, most notably the STEAM room on the, I think it's the north side, the northwestern corner of the school. It used to look like an old shop, and now it probably is the envy of the other teachers because the space looks awesome. And again, we're waiting on new furniture to come in for that so that we can reveal it to the rest of the community when it's all completed. But the space looks amazing, and it's very adaptable for different types of educational purposes. So we have repair of some exterior hardware, door hardware, exterior stair tread replacement for a very frequently used set of stairs on the kind of front middle side of the school, and additional wiring that was done throughout the school building. I do want to touch upon the mold concern that was reported at Millington. We talked about that. We explored that room. It's a resource room. I forget the exact number, but 118 for some reason jumps out of my mind. I don't know if that's off or not, Mark. 117? And
Just 17.
Just
Just
17.
17.
oh, room 17. Sorry, room 17. We took a look and we saw what, we can't know for absolute certainty what was the conditions that caused it, but it's probably reasonably speculated to have been a closed door for a period of time, a full moisture or dehumidifier system that had been kind of left running and then basically stopped when the tank was full. And all testing and mitigation, we double tested with 2 different vendors. We did the mitigation. All for what we know, all of those concerns have been addressed very quickly. It's not a widespread concern. There's no exterior water infiltration going on. It's simply just a moisture issue in the room over a period of non-usage. So we're glad that that was reported and quickly and swiftly addressed. We have other items that we could probably save for another report in the interest of time, and we look forward to a more robust presentation from the facilities director at a future meeting. But thank you to Adele and Mark for all their hard work over the summer The schools look great. Thank you for the tour, sir.
Yes. Do you want to add something?
Just an update, 5 pallets of furniture arrived at Gillette School for kindergarten furniture, so we'll be assembling that soon. And to be clear about the Millington home situation, there were reports of a couple of different rooms, testing them, and when they're invaded, they're needed to be invaded, we'll be testing pre and post-cleaning rooms and doors.
And they're all good? Just want to make sure that's on the record. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So any questions for Alex? Okay, Tom?
Thank you. I can't take all the credit for this. Jack Hartnett, sitting out there. Please, Jack, correct me if and when I'm wrong. The last meeting of the Technology Committee was in August. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to present, family issues. Anyhow, to get back to the meeting, he apprised all of those in attendance of the following, that facilitation and management of installation of upgraded CCTV has been completed in all main offices. Gillette was pending at the time, but did you say you would have it done by school opening?
Yeah, actually,
Just Millington? Just Millington? Okay. Thank you. They've been installed, and 25 in Central. Gillette also to follow. A large wall-mounted displays have been installed in each main office and the principal's offices to enhance viewing experience and the effectiveness of the CCTV. Imagine having to look at a little screen like this, and now you got this. You can see what's going on in your 25 screens. That was great. Millington computer upgrades. All classrooms in Millington, have they received them yet? They have, okay, because it was by August and, yeah, okay. They received a new computer, a maximum of 1 per classroom. These new computers are Dell PCs with monitors, monitor stand, keyboard, mouse, all that. They're Windows 11 compatible. Windows 11, according to Jack, will become mandatory by October of 25. Everything that's not Windows 11, bye-bye. It's been upgraded to a 27-inch monitor. It's improved interoperability with new smart displays. The network has been overhauled. Internal networks have been redesigned to provide the following improvements: ability to scale up if and when the demands change, improved wireless printing capabilities, standardized all the networks, enhanced security capabilities. In addition, upgraded hardware for all switching closets has been ordered, not installed. Sir? The student Chromebook agreement, which I spoke to you about in June, has been created and is available through the Genesis Parent Portal. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of a contract between the student and his or her parents and the school district, saying, you go and break this computer because you think it's funny, your parents are going to pay for it. So I think that's great. That brings some accountability to all involved. Items for the good of the order, there's none at this time. On a personal note, I would like to call out that, well, this is 9/11. Sorry, very personal. And this is also Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. There's a young girl in town, Grace. You might see the signs for With Grace, and she has a charity. She spoke before Congress. She has been at the State of the Union, and she's an admirable woman and family. And just please keep them in your mind, and hopes and prayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom?
I was just curious about the statement about Windows 11 being mandatory. What does that mean?
Windows 11 is going to be phased out in October of 25.
Okay.
So it has the capabilities now, right? It's back to my note. It's compatible. So is it running both systems, or has it moved up? Let Jack answer the question.
So Windows 10 is going to stop receiving security updates in October of 25, which means that we must be on hardware that's capable of running Windows 11 by then.
Oh, that's what you mean by mandatory. Okay,
Yes,
great.
Windows 11 will become the primary operating system in October of 25, and will no longer be able to maintain Windows 10, which we're currently doing.
Okay, and there's obviously like, you know, there's gonna be a Windows 12 like 4 years after that, right? I mean, this is a thing that happens, right?
To be honest with you, they So I don't have an answer there, but we'll be able to address that at November.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Melissa?
This is a long meeting, so I'll make it quick. And the agenda is self-explanatory. Any policies that we revise, you saw the red line drafts. There were, some minor revisions. By the end of this year, we will, in addition to the 4 that are now added to this month's agenda for the policy committee, we will have reviewed about 108 policies and regulations. So we're well on track for the 95 a year, to update every policy a minimum of once every 3 years.
Great. Any questions for Melissa? Great, okay. We're moving to superintendent's report.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening again, everyone. As I said, we had a great new teacher orientation. Thank you for our new staff and the energy they brought. The next day, we welcomed the entire staff back and had a wonderful opening day, followed by professional learning and collaboration over the course of 2 days. Thank you to the PTO, as Danielle said, for the faculty breakfast. They had a faculty breakfast at each school on Thursday. I also want to recognize Lieutenant Ciambriello and Lieutenant Marchevsky for serving as partners with us. I reached out to them in August and went over to the police department to have a meeting with them. We talked through a number of things, and they're going to be very supportive throughout the year as we move through the school year. They've already committed to attend meetings with us and to help out not only with security drills, but with planning and strategizing. And I had a great meeting at the library. I was invited over by the librarians and another great partner in education for us. Let's see here. We also have an addendum that I want to make sure everyone sees in addition to the agenda that we have. We had a terrific opening to the school year. It was overshadowed by some challenges that we had with bus transportation. As we said in the message last week, it's been frustrating for everyone, and I really do want to just thank everyone for their support with this. I apologize to the students and families. I also apologize to our staff, which has been put in certain positions where they had to adjust work responsibilities, spend extra time, juggle a number of things. And again, we really appreciate their support. But we're trying to make this better as soon as possible. We've seen improvement. We've been working with the bus company. We've been working with Watchung Hills. Tim Stice, the business administrator from Watchung Hills, is here this evening. We appreciate that, Tim, and he'll talk in a little bit. We also have Bob Scarpa and his colleague Haney from Durham Bus Company. We had a terrific conference call this morning, clarifying some of the issues that we're experiencing. We've been sharing all the feedback that we've been getting from parents over the phone and emails at bus stops, and just trying to make this as consistent and reliable as possible. So again, things were running much better today and on Friday, but we got to get to the point where it's consistent and reliable for the kids and the families and for our staff. Okay, so I think what we'll do, and I just want to make one note about the transportation shared services agreement that we have with the high school. That's why we invited Tim here, because Tim is the one who leads the charge in getting transportation every year for the high school and for some of the sending districts that participate in this shared services. And he's always been very supportive of the regional sending districts, and he's here again tonight to talk. I guess I would like to just kind of turn it over to Robin and see if you'd like to add anything, and if so, and I know you have a couple of other items beyond transportation, but then we'll invite Tim up to talk a little bit.
Sure. So for transportation, first thing I'd like to say is that everybody in the board office in the district, we are as upset about this as the parents are. We certainly did not expect that this was the mode that was going to start for opening day. We had hoped for much better. On the plus side, it is getting better. It's only been, today is the 5th day, and we do see improvement. Parents have been absolutely lovely. My staff and I and Dan Borgo and our superintendent have all ridden the bus several times, more than several times, to try to make it better for the students, the families, and the drivers, because it's a little bit tough, to find a new route in a new community. And our community is not easy. We have a lot of major roads, so we do understand. We did do practice runs with them the week before school started, where my staff was on the buses. We've ridden it every day, including today. We've been on buses. My staff has been, when parents have called to say you've missed a stop, we've sent business office staff to stand there with the family and the child to make sure that we can wave down a bus, or did they really miss us? Do we have the right stop? Is there a problem with the stop? So we're trying to work on it that way. A couple other things that we did. We've printed up the route numbers for the buses to make sure that it's clearly identified. We have had a few issues with the buses actually putting our route numbers on the buses, but we have printed them out several times and asked them, please put them in the front window, on the side window, so that the buses are easily identified. That we've printed up route sheets for the drivers, and we've gone over route changes with them to make sure that they have the route. We're attempting to let families know when the buses are running late. We're doing our best. It's really an issue. We're transporting 503 students, over 250 stops. So when we get a route change, it is kind of hard to make sure that somebody gets that route. But we're doing our best. That we're trying to answer emails on a priority basis and phone calls on a priority basis, responding to safety issues. I personally have made over 50 phone calls to families just to hear, what's going on, how can I help? If there's anything that we can do to help. Like I said, that we all in the business office feel so personally connected to our students and our families. I mean, this really is just not the way we wanted week one to go. It should have been 100% happy. And we hate to see that this part maybe has put a damper on what should have been a perfect week. We had a meeting with the drivers and the lead supervisor in our office. We emphasized to them that buses needed to be on time, that we have to have no stops missed, that the route has to be run exactly as we give it to them, as printed, and that we expect it to be on a clean bus. We need the buses to really be swept out every single day, and we want our children on something that we put our own kids on. Okay, and that was definitely relayed to the bus company. We've asked for GPS tracking software, which I believe we're going to get in the office. That should help to make communication better. One of the problems that we were having is when a bus was late, we didn't really know it until somebody called us. So if we can actually track to see where a bus is, that really should help us. We're also, TransFinder is how we do the routing. And we're looking to get TransFinder for all the buses so that the drivers actually have a GPS system on the bus, so that it will be updated on a daily basis, so that if somebody changes a route or has something different to the route, it will be updated immediately so that the route is good for the bus driver. The other thing is we do have a staff member, Dom, who is brand new, is home listening to this, and any comments that we get, he's going to take note of, so that we also have those comments as a part of our reference to help us make changes. Other than that it's like the 5th day of school, and we're just hopeful. It got a little better today. Let's hope every day we see improvement, and maybe by Friday we'll say that things are really pretty good. So keep your fingers crossed.
I'll end on a positive note. So I've been driving through the roads in Long Hill for 40 years, but I've discovered new neighborhoods because I'm bus 5. So that's been great, but what has been even better has been meeting the kids on the bus, and that's really been great,
Kids are
meeting some
absolutely
families,
adorable.
and the families really appreciate it. So that part was, the positive parts of
I'm
the
the same way.
experience.
I'm 30 years in this area. I was
Yeah.
here before Kings was Kings. It was a path mark. There was no
Right.
Panera and all that. And I too have discovered whole areas that I didn't know existed.
Yeah. Yes. You remember Radio Shack too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Tim, we're going to invite you up.
I
I've known
just
Tim a
ask a-
long time, and yeah, sure.
I just want to ask a question. The GPS software and tracking that you said, putting it on these buses, is that they weren't on our buses, the other buses we've ever had? Or is this a brand new idea, or?
I am not sure what the years before had. They didn't?
have them,
No.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We were just looking for some way to help them
Okay.
beyond the manual accompaniment.
If I may, just going off of what Karen is saying, I was just wondering, so if there's no GPSs, are bus drivers just utilizing their own cell phones?
No, they're actually using the paper. That's the part that I was
That's-
unhappy
yeah,
with. They're,
that's a
they're,
problem.
they have the paper in their lap.
Really?
And that's
not-
how that's how my
Some of them
drivers
use cell
have been
phones too.
navigating.
But we give them the paper routes,
Yeah, okay.
and then it becomes just the routine of driving and understanding it. But on bus 5, the one that I've been on, we had 3 different bus drivers over the course of 5 days, but we found the sub-bus driver today was terrific, and we've asked for her to be permanent, and that looks like that's going to happen. So I think that's going to change the whole dynamic.
Yeah, and I
for
do
that-
know
for
bus
those
driver
families.
for Anna, she did put the route on her cell phone, so she was using her cell phone to do it.
Yeah.
Bus driver 7 was using the paper.
But let me
Okay,
ask
wait,
this-
wait, Melissa has a question.
Yes, more of a comment and something I think you didn't necessarily echo was we all saw how very hard the BA's office and our administration was working this week, riding the bus with our kids, each route, and treating all of our kids like your own. So I feel bad that you're all taking so much responsibility because I know you were working very hard in the last week. But I think something that you didn't echo was it was very difficult for the BA's office to communicate with the parents if a route was running late, if the bus company was not communicating that with our BA's office. So that is something I just think needs to
Yes.
be echoed, that it's not like you were ignoring.
No, we
that
just didn't know.
You didn't know.
We didn't know.
So, and a few years ago, we did discuss the GPS on the buses, and I'm sure, we don't own our buses. So we have to obviously send it out to bid, and we have obligations as to which bids we could accept. So it's not like there are all these choices out there. The bidding process with the transportation is very cumbersome, even when it comes to the legalities. But we were actually looking years ago, I think when I first got on the board, into these programs that would actually track each child with these cards. The bus company needs to have that program, and I think when we were looking into that, it is such an expensive undertaking that we would all essentially be paying for in the increase to our budget and our expenses. But I think at the time there were no bus companies in New Jersey that had installed these GPS programs that we would all love to have. So as a tip, I know some parents are using the Apple AirTags. Listen, there's no good answer. The first week of school, I anticipated with my own children, transportation is always horrendous the first week of school. So I don't think we can necessarily say that this, is for the rest of the year. But I really want to thank the BA's office and for our superintendent, who I said was Facebook famous over the weekend, because he, unbeknownst to him, he was talking to the kids and getting on the bus with them. So, and people took pictures of that. And it means a lot when the leadership in our district really takes the initiative to take these steps, because it always starts from the top. And you set a great example for our entire district. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Melissa, but I also want to emphasize how hard the staff has been working, Denise, Colleen, Stephanie, and in the front offices and our principals, and everyone's pitching in and just making sure that the kids are supervised and waiting. But we did go down from, I think, the first week, and I'll use bus 5 as an example, I think the kids got home after 5:30 a couple days. And yes, Friday, Dan and I had them home by 4:20 and 4:11 today. So we're going in the right direction, and if we want consistency and reliability, this is our man, Tim. That's Tim Stei's middle name, so we'll turn it over to Tim, and he can talk about the bidding and some of the other challenges they've been going through at the high school. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, George. And I'm just trying to figure out whether you actually just want to ride the bus, so that's why you were doing that. Try to get out of work. But anyway, so I'm from the high school. I'm the business administrator at the high school, and thank you for having me. What we do at the high school level is we put the bids together, and I know Ms. Nyquist said it before about shared services. Well, that's a big thing, particularly in transportation. And it's just set up that way. Like, it's a tiered system, starts high school, middle school, elementary school. So you kind of want to do those bids together for efficiency, number one, but also you get a better price if you can lump them together in bulk, right? So that's what we've been doing for years. This year, we actually combined Long Hill, Watchung, and us, which makes sense. And it doesn't split the routes. It's kind of still the same. There's really no change. It's just that it'll attract more companies, better pricing. And so that was the idea. So that's kind of how the bidding works. We're the lead agency. We put out the bid, and then the bid, we get bidders. Lately, the last couple of years, we've struggled to get enough bidders. We had trouble last year, and we did a lot of last-minute stuff, working with Dan, to get enough buses to take your kids to school. Watchung was not so lucky. They had about 3 that were short, and we were short 1 too. So that's been a challenge, and that remains a challenge, and the bus company will tell you that. They're struggling to get drivers. The pricing has been a pain in the neck. Driver prices have gone up, their salaries have gone up. As you all know, diesel and gas, so that's been a problem. So combined with all these other things, budget is a problem, right? So that's part of all the mess that we're kind of dealing with, which is unfortunate. It used to be a lot simpler, not so much anymore, it just isn't. And in this year, we actually had a pretty good bid. We had 2 competitive bids. And the low bidder, or lowest responsive bidder, was Durham. Durham, I think we're down in Freehold, and they lost some routes because I think they removed some of their routes. So I know they came this way, and they had some contracts up here, but they could probably tell you more about that than I could. But them being new to this area, that was going to be a challenge. I live in Hillsborough, so when I started driving up here, I get lost. Took me about 5 years to figure it all out. And there's still roads I still don't know. But so that in and of itself is a challenge. When you have a new company, new towns, you're going to have a bumpy start. I can tell you, there's no chance that you're not going to. It's going to happen. The question is how bumpy. And I think this one was a little bumpier than what we were hoping for. I knew it was going to be bumpy. This felt a lot bumpier. The elementary schools are in constant contact with me, so we're constantly going back and forth. I've talked to Robin, I talked to Dan, I talked to Patty over in Watchung, so it's a constant discussion. And when we hear the issues, we gather information, and when it gets serious enough, we have to have a conversation with the bus company because we hold the contract. In this particular case, we kind of stepped it up a bit, and we got above onto some very, very high-level folks at Durham and let them know we need some help. This isn't working, guys. So I was on the phone with a gentleman from Florida one evening, and he put me in touch with Mr. Bob Scarpa, who was very helpful. We had I think George mentioned, but we had a really good conference call. I thought it went well. I thought they heard what we were saying, and they saw the issues that needed to be addressed, and now they are dedicated to address those issues. Some of them being the timeliness of the routes, missing stops, the cleanliness of the buses, those sorts of things that and Robin was great. She gave us pictures, which we had forwarded to them. So those kind of things we're looking to get addressed. So I don't want to spend too much time of your time, but will tell you this, and I was with George's meeting last year up in Watchung, and we were in a different kind of situation where we didn't have buses for 3 routes, and my message to the board and to the community there is going to be the same as it is here. I work at the high school. We have the contract. We don't do the routes. However, we have the contract, and we will never stop helping you. That is not something we do. If there are issues, we will follow them through. We will be here to help you. That's what we do. Shared services is shared services. We have to do it together, and we have to fix these things together. And by the way, some of our routes, we're experiencing the same things as an FYI. So it's been a bumpy ride for us too. So it's not just you, it's us, and Watchung, I can honestly tell you, is probably a little bit worse off than you are. Their routes are a little tougher. It's just the nature of what, their where their logistics and everything are there. It's tougher, but we're all in this together, and we are working together to make this thing work. I don't know if you want me to introduce Bob.
Yeah, could you, Tim?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll introduce Bob Scarpa over from Durham Bus Company, he can tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you for having me. You have a beautiful town here. It's gorgeous. The roads are beautiful. The area is beautiful. I'm from the shore, so I don't get to come up this way often, but it's gorgeous. My name is Bob Scarpa. I'm with Durham School Services. I'm a region manager. I cover New Jersey. I also cover Pennsylvania and Long Island. And, first week of school in most school districts, even school districts we've been running for a long period of time, is usually a very stressful time. I'm happy to say we got through the first week, because that is the toughest time for anyone, drivers, supervisors, dispatchers. We took on a new contract, and it is a very difficult area for our drivers because it's new territory. They've never been up here. I've never been up here, and I've traveled most of New Jersey. So it's definitely a different dynamic for them. And I think that based on what we're seeing, we are seeing some improvement, right? I commit to you that I'm going to be in the facility every day until it's right. I'm foregoing all of my other facilities to be here because I think it's that important. You're a new contract for us, so we need to fix it, right? Not just for the district, but for the people in the community, for the parents. I'm a parent, right? I've been down that road. I know what it's like to have a bus late or not show up. We met this morning, and we came up with a good game plan to address some of the main concerns. We took care of a lot of low-hanging fruit stuff. The signage that you made up is great, but I did have my team go out and buy and have created today, and we're picking them up tomorrow. I think goes new, thicker signs, bigger signs, yellow and black, to put in the window uniformly on all of your assets. So it's much more visual for the students and for the staff. So we're working on that. Cleanliness of the buses, we've hired an outside agency to come in and clean all of the buses from inside and out, top to bottom, because I did look at them today as well, and I'm not happy about them. And shame on me, I should have probably been down here over the summertime to look at some of them. I was down here over the summer, but we were in a transition of a move as well. We moved new facility from where we used to be in Roselle. We're now in Kenilworth, so it was a very difficult, perfect storm, for lack of a better term. So we are working on the assets. We will have them cleaned this weekend. We have an outside company coming in, Fleet Wash, to clean the interior and exterior of all of our buses. As far as on-time performance, the drivers are learning the routes, and we are getting better. And we will continue to get better. And I anticipate by this Friday that most of those drivers are going to have a really good feel for their routes, right? Continuity is important for them, being on the same route every day. We started out where we had a few problems with some newer people, and we moved them around, and we took them off of routes, but we put a new driver on. So we were starting from square one all over again 3 days into school. That stopped. The drivers who are on the routes will be on the routes, right? They need to continue to learn the area, the route, the turn by turn, where they can make a left turn or shouldn't make a left turn, and where they should be making mostly right-hand turns, right? So that's important. The one thing I did learn about coming up here today is that if you miss a turn, you're pretty much in trouble for a good length of time where you have the opportunity to turn around. So, that's where those little things, those little innuendos are going to come into play for our drivers. Safety continues to be and always will be on the top of Durham School Services Board, right? We have Drive Cam in all of our assets, which is it's more of a training, coaching tool for our drivers. It basically films the driver for 8 seconds prior to what we call an incident or an occurrence. They could harsh brake, and it'll show us what they're doing. It'll also show the front of the vehicle. Why did they harsh brake, right? It shows all different, if they're on a cell phone, which we have a 0 cell phone tolerance policy, drivers are immediately let go for cell phone usage if we see them on drive cam. We can't be with them all the time, but that's something that we take very serious. We do have a good pool of drivers in our pipeline right now, so I'm encouraged to see that. In our total pipeline, we have probably 19 drivers going for their CDL licenses. We're planning on hiring 2 this week. By the end of this week, we should have 2 more hired. So we're teetering at 100%. My staff all have their CDL in the office, other than my GM and one of our dispatchers. So when it comes time for them to jump on a bus, if we're short, they'll jump on a bus. They have no problem doing that. So we're committed to supporting the district and being a partner with the district. And quite frankly, you have my commitment that it'll get better, and it's going to get better, and it has gotten better. You know, making every single stop on a route is super important, right? You can't miss a stop. Even if there's no students at that stop, you have to go there every day, because you never know if somebody's going to show up that day, right? In some of my conversations, I heard from drivers saying, well, students from 2 different stops go to this one stop, so I don't go to the other 2 stops. Well, no, that's not good enough, because what if one student didn't go to that stop, right? So it's not about how many students you're missing. It's if we miss one, it's a problem. So we got it, we hear you, and we're committed to making it better. So that is, I'm here for you, so we're partners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking responsibility and coming to meet with us today. We certainly appreciate it. We're grateful that progress has been made. And I'm happy to hear that safety and security is a top concern for Durham. On that note, and I was looking on my phone to see what the actual law was with respect to GPS. I thought it was something that was required of all school buses, but apparently that's just legislation that's sitting since 2021.
So we have GPS in every asset. It's
That's
Zonar.
what I was gonna ask.
It's Zonar. And we have worked, we worked with the district today.
Yeah.
And I was able to get access for certain people that Tim and Dan designated that they wanted to have Zonar from us. So they have access now to go in. There's 2 different reports they can pull. One is called a path report, which shows every single stop that the bus makes every day.
Okay.
Up to the point that they're at that point. And one is an locate bus, which will only tell you where that bus is at that time. So they have 2 different ways of looking at it now. And the good thing about it is, in speaking to Tim and Dan, some of the routes need some adjustment, but they didn't have the data to make those adjustments. So now they will have that data to look at it and see how many stops are on that route, and can we really do 30 stops in 32 minutes or 32 stops in 30 minutes, right? And they'll be able to see that, and maybe after 2 or 3 weeks, once things settle down, they'll be able to make some adjustments to some routes.
You've given me much greater reassurance, because that was going to be the very point that I was going to
Sorry.
make. You do have GPS on all the buses?
Correct.
Okay. And there is data being gathered as to their performance, and that will be used for reevaluation of any modifications that are needed in order to
Correct.
make these more efficient and more consistent. Okay.
That data also is used for us in our Domo system for on-time performance and stuff like that, so it's multi-use, but yes.
Okay, anybody else? Karen?
I just wanted to, I guess, I mean, of course, the timeliness and the safety and all. 2 things. Are there video cameras on your bus?
We have cameras on our bus.
Okay. And a statement that you made, I guess we hadn't heard about the dirty buses. And since you've been in business for a long time, I guess, I just want to express my concern that should even be an issue. But now you're taking care of it. But it was the first time I heard about it, and like I said, you were an established company. That should not have even come up as an issue.
Absolutely right. We usually clean our buses during the summertime. We clean our buses during the year, and then in the summertime we do a mass cleaning of all buses. This year, because we were in transition and we had to move a whole facility over the summer up, we lost track of it, no doubt. That's on us. We take full responsibility for it. It will be rectified this week.
But isn't it a question of, you said daily cleaning, right?
Sorry?
Well, for me, I mean, I would expect that the buses being swept out and cleaned.
That's a daily process by our
Okay.
drivers.
Okay.
Our drivers have, and so the good thing about, I shouldn't say the good thing, cleaning all the buses this weekend will give us a benchmark for all of our drivers. We know the buses are gonna be spotlessly clean. Now we'll do spot checks to ensure that the buses are staying clean,
Okay.
right? The interior of the buses. The exteriors, they have no control over. Right now, until we get into wintertime, we probably won't have to wash them again until we get into winter when we start to see the salt on the roads and it comes up on the buses, then we'll do a washing. But right now, the exterior, once we clean them once, they're usually good for a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, and Karen, I get on the buses, and I got on every single bus, and I had the children all sit down, buckle their seatbelts, unbuckle their seatbelts, raise your hand if your seatbelt didn't buckle, so we checked all that as well.
What was the
I also
percentage
did-
that
we
didn't
also did-
buckle?
We also did raise your hand if you don't know how to buckle a seatbelt. We did that a
Then
little
I'm
bit
calling your
too.
parents. No, that's not, okay.
Can
Other, Melissa, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming here today and for taking a lot of accountability. However, I just need to make one thing clear. If these were problems that you saw were happening last week, our upper administration was pulled out of the BA's office, our superintendent, our BA, everybody in that BA's office, because your company wasn't doing their job. So if you're going to take accountability, I don't want to hear it's getting better. Parents are putting their kids, they're saying goodbye to their kids for the first time when they put them on that bus. And they're trusting us and our administration with their safety. And it came down on our district and our board because your company was not doing the right job and was not doing a good enough job. If these routes don't get fixed, you put another person on that bus. Do not take someone from our district and our office to ride the buses with those kids because they're needed elsewhere, and it's not their fault that you guys could not meet your obligation. So please, own up to what you did. Do not put more burden on our parents, our administration, and our board, and fix what's happening.
Okay,
Because we will hold you accountable to it.
I appreciate that. I think I owned up to that. You know, I took responsibility for it for my company. Definitely take responsibility for it. It's inherently a problem all beginning of school year. Every district we deal with.
This was much worse than that. This is much worse than any experience we've ever had. So that's not
Got
what
it.
we want to hear. We just want to know it's going to be fixed. We want to know these kids are safe, and we want to know that our administrators and our teachers are going to be in their classrooms, in their offices, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and not fixing the problem that your company caused.
Got it.
I apologize for doing this, but I guess, in a way, I'm piggybacking on her. I have to say this, and I've been on the Board of Ed here for 25 years. This has never happened before. I can tell you that. We've never had this amount of complexity of problems. I'm just laying that out, okay?
I can appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to add my 2 cents. You say that the buses are tough to be kept clean, except if God decides to rain on them. The inside of the bus is pretty easy to be kept clean. You have to go at the end of a route and turn the sign in the back saying there's no kids in the back of the bus, right?
Correct.
Why can the driver not look over and say, oh, there's a piece of paper here, there's a gum wrapper there, take a quick room, so that in the afternoon, when the kids get out of school, they're tired, they know that they've been respected during the day, they get back onto a clean bus. Why does that have to only be cleaned at the end of the day? These are simple things that cost you almost nothing. And this is a service that you run for 3 different states,
Absolutely.
and nobody else has said, please clean our buses for our kids?
No, we police buses every single day in every other facility. We police them here. Now, we hand out brooms, we hand out dustpans, and we require them to be cleaned. We did not do our job by going in and taking a look at the buses to make sure they were being cleaned.
Can we do that going forward?
That is going to be, yes, absolutely, it's part of
Twice
our
a
process.
day, end of each run.
Absolutely. They should be.
Especially when you
They go into the back of the bus to turn a child check sign around to check every single seat in the bus. They should have a broom in their hand and they should be sweeping the debris forward, if there's any debris at all.
There might not be any, but with the
exactly.
3-tier buses, you've got 3 groups of kids, and I'm not gonna blame any one of them for leaving a mess.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But I also don't want to blame the bus drivers because we're very lucky to not have a shortage of bus drivers. So this is frankly, this, and I'll leave it at this, this is not an issue of necessarily the drivers, this was an issue of leadership from your company.
Yeah.
Okay.
The leadership should have told them to clean.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The children don't deserve a dirty bus.
Mr. Alexis, do you have anything else, or should,
No, that's it. We can move on.
okay,
Kim,
okay.
no.
Go ahead, Ann.
Just while it was a question more for us and for the communication that we have with Watchung Hills and then with the community, it sounds like they have fixed the ability for us to now see where the buses are at. And I think that when you're waiting for a bus and it's 30 minutes late, if we could make sure that we hear from the high school, because their buses are our buses, right? So if their bus is running late,
Correct.
then our bus is running late. So I think, it starts there. But then also, if we could go back to the communications, I have been getting some of them, more from us than from the older group. But there's nothing worse as a parent. Like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So it sounds like that's been resolved. But and I know that there are efforts there. But that to me is something that we could immediately do. If your kid is going to be 20 minutes late, or if you're standing out there, for too long, at least like, is it coming? Is it not coming? Some sort of communication there. I
Yeah,
think would be
that's
usually
what we
helpful.
put in place on Friday. and
Yeah, I appreciate
That's been
that.
getting better, but
Yeah.
today we had to send out fewer because
Yeah.
buses were more on time, but that's what we've made that. And Jack's been helping out with that also. I failed to mention Jack's help in all of this
Yeah,
process.
Jack
so
has
he-
been amazing.
I
he's
went to
been-
thank Jack, but
yeah,
Stepping
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that will continue. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Robin, you have more things that you're going to address, so that was like transportation?
That was
Okay.
transportation.
But let me just add, okay, after Robin finishes some other comments, after that on the agenda, we have comments from the public on agenda items. So normally, nothing related to transportation is on the agenda. So normally, any comments related to items that are not on the agenda are saved till the end of the meeting. But because we know that people have, it's getting late, we are opening up that portion of the meeting for people to also comment on transportation. So if anybody's here to comment on transportation, you're going to be able to do it after Robin finishes, but I'll also add just for Tim and Bob, if you can stick around, I think there might be some things that come up in a couple of minutes that you may want to take back and maybe even answer some questions. So I'm just going to put that out there. So Robin, go ahead.
Sure. My finance report is short today. So Karen mentioned that we had the auditors in, and we did. Nice part was they were in and out in 3 days. So let's hope that leads to some positive things. I think it does. But that's just, that hopeful. We'll find out soon. But they're all done, so that's nice. The audit is finished. On the agenda for approval, you will see that we have Conquer Math workshops, and a bunch of our staff is excited to be attending these. I wanted to let you know that we're paying for these out of Title II funding. Title II is a federal grant program that provides supplemental funding to support effective instruction. So it's the perfect use of these funds. So I'm really happy that we're doing that. We're also asking you to approve a consulting agreement for E-Rate. If you remember, E-Rate provides discounts for telecommunications, internet, and internal connections eligible to schools and libraries. So that's on the agenda. I know Karen mentioned the filing cabinets. I mean, personally, I'm just really excited about the filing cabinets. I was going to order some. We got 14 of them. So that's really nice, and they're in great shape. So I'm thrilled with that. So thank you, Bedminster. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. Any questions for Robin? No. Okay. All right. So next we have comments from the public on agenda items or transportation. That means if anybody has any comments, okay, come to the microphone. At this point, the Board of Education welcomes comments from any member of the public on agenda items only and transportation. Please note that as per Board Policy number 1120, we have a total of 15 minutes for public comments at any single board meeting. In order to provide residents the opportunity to comment, individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each at any particular board meeting. The board may extend those time limits at its discretion, Any questions should be directed to the board president, which is me, and depending upon the nature and complexity of the question, it may or may not be answered during the meeting by the administration. If so, the response would occur after this public portion of the meeting has concluded. Everyone has the freedom to speak, but please be advised that anything said in public may have legal ramifications, and there is no protection regarding statements made by the public. Please state your name and address before you begin.
Hi, Eric Calabrese, 126 Winding Way in Sterling. One would be on the bus. I was going to wait till the end, but since we're jumping it here, last week my bus never showed up at drop-off no less than 40 minutes after its estimated, time to be dropped off. So that was 40 minutes, 42 minutes, and 50 minutes. So having a first grader get off the bus that late, not acceptable in any way. I'm a teacher. I used to hold a CDL and drive the bus for coaching on the high school level. I'm well aware of the stresses involved in that. I would just say, we need to work on that, and obviously you are. This morning, my son's bus came 22 minutes early for pickup in the morning. I don't know how anybody can manage that on either end of the spectrum. Me being a teacher, I'm not there. My wife works in the city, so that's quite a predicament for my family to, navigate with. So, if it's just going to be late at the end of the day, I'd rather it just be late at the end of the day rather than, first thing in the morning. Really hard to obviously handle that issue. The other one I wanted to call your attention to is agenda item number 16. You guys want to take a look at it? Agenda item 16 is about a contract with Thrive Alliance Group to provide mental health services. Is that in place of having an in-house student assistant counselor known as a SAC?
I'm not going to answer till the
Well,
end.
thank you,
Yeah.
Ms. Case. I would implore you, at this day and age, find the money for an in-house SAC. My questions that I would go beyond that would be, is if you're going to have an outside vendor essentially handle our children who, in the middle school level, obviously have 1,000,000,001 questions that they're seeking to have answered, is this going to be something where it's an individual that is on a rotating basis, where it may not be the same counselor coming in to handle these student issues? Are they in-house, in building on a daily basis, or are they only there every other day? Because last time I checked, 7th and 8th graders, 6th graders don't have questions and travesties that occur in their life that they need to have handled right then and there. From my experience as a teacher, seeing a SAC in my building on top of 2 guidance counselors, there is never a shortage where that SAC is not in need, whether that's an individual threat and you need a threat assessment done. I would implore you guys, please, to do that. This is coming from an individual who has lost 2 friends that I grew up with here in this town. I live in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I've had 2 friends who grew up here who committed suicide. I know how that pain feels, and I implore you guys to make sure you find the money for it. Don't make excuses. Don't make excuses. Find the money for it. You can't tell me the kids aren't worth it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay. Oh, yes.
How are you? So my name is Brendan Flynn, 19 Francine Place, Millington. I'm in a unique position that I'm in school busing as well. I'm part of the 3rd largest contractor in the country, where Durham's the 2nd largest contractor in the country. And so we've had some issues with busing as well, but I'm a little bit easier to overlook some of those first day, first week issues. That being said, I've driven my kids 4 days so far, and they've gotten the bus once and arrived to school late the day that they did get the bus. And so I think some of the things that we want to take a look at are the routes themselves, and part of it might just be not having had some of that data. Because I know the bus, if it shows up the time that we're told, it's not getting to school on time. Just not going to happen. First Student has done it for a number of years. The pickup time at our stop should be about 7:35. Today our kids missed the bus because our pickup time's at 7:52. 7:42 they were out there. Bus came by at about 7:37, 7:38. So the drivers need to know they get 10 minutes on both sides. And so they either need to wait or we need to adjust the times. I know ours needs to be adjusted, and 5 or 6 emails have gone unanswered. And I get it's busy. My wife sent an email to the business administrator today. Prior to that, it had been going to the transportation email, and just not one response. And ours is simple. We've got a way to be able to get our kids to school. And so it's not that big of a deal, and there's certainly other ones that are more important. One of the things you had referenced was GPS going on vehicles, and as Mr. Scarpa knows, or indicated, GPS is on them. Were you referring to navigation?
Yeah.
I'm familiar. We've got them down in Willingboro, so we do their transportation, similar setup. And that's what I was just trying to make sure that what it was that we were talking about, whether it was specific to GPS or the navigation. Okay. Nope, and that's perfect. So again, I just think the key is just making sure. I think it's important that the parents should have the routes. It was great the other day we got an email or a text comes through saying the route has started. Without context, it's useless. If the route starts at 7:30 and we're told that it's at 7:30, it'd be nice to know where it's going so I know, hey, do I have some time? Should my kids be out there at 7:37, 7:42, 7:52? And so that's something worth looking into to consider providing the specific route for those kids to each of the families. We don't need everybody's, just our own, just so we can have an idea with that. But like I said, it certainly has gotten better. And so I'm one that's willing to give them a chance of getting through it. And like I said, just try and do the best we can in getting a little more communication out there to everybody. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Posting it on a website along our routes, security issue, legal, that if someone is looking for some sort of
I know.
abduction, now your routes are all over your website. We were looking at it through Genesis, but we got. I don't mean to interrupt, gentlemen. I don't mean to interrupt, but this might be important for people at home that might not be able to hear you, Dan.
Do you want to come to the mic,
Do you
Dan?
mind coming to the Dan? No, thank you. Lawyers always insist on a clear record.
Dan Borgo, I was the interim for 2 years here at Long Hill. We've been looking at a lot of different ideas to communicate better to our community, one of which was how to get the entire route to parents. So when we say the route has started and it's 8:02, they could say add 18 minutes, it's going to be here at 8:38. And some of the issues are that big security issue, and we are in fact listening to all the emails coming in, trying to find a good way for onboarding this. We've looking at a lot of different things. As I said, this is the worst of my 36 years of doing this, and it's just we want to regain the confidence of parents. We want them to feel comfortable that they could go to get to work on time, make their appointments on time, and if the bus is going to say 8:18, we need that 15 to 18 minute window, maybe 6 or 7 minutes before to 6 or 7 minutes later. But we are taking and gathering all the information we are receiving, compiling lists, talking with our vendor to try to improve this, spending our money, such as the tablet investment, that we would be putting on someone else's bus to assist in a process to make that better for moms and dads to get their children to school safely and timely.
Are you planning for extra tablets?
Yes,
So
yeah.
I'm not sure how many vehicles we have in town.
Right.
But again, doing this, I know how often we're sending, bus 123 is supposed to be
Right.
out there, and today 245 is,
Right.
right? And so just something that you want to keep in
Right.
mind is that
Well,
if you
these,
think you need 10, you probably need 12 or 13.
The loads are, the holders are almost spring loaded, so they're not affixed permanently to the device. So we would hope in your yard that you take them in every night, identify them, and then you could just go on and then load in your routes are all going to be preloaded. And as Tim has stated, this is another good shared service. So we could buy one tablet. It's one bus that's doing 3 routes, so we could share in that cost. We both use TransFinder, so we have a common ground. So yes, it's something we're looking at, or something we'll work in conjunction with whatever bus company we have to try to be on the cutting edge that would help you guys as a vendor to get this thing correct. So thank
Okay.
you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay, let's move to resolutions. Minutes, items number 1. Karen, will you move those?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mrs. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Mrs. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo?
Abstain?
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Danielle, will you move in financials numbers 2 through 11?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo?
Abstain as to 2, yes for the remaining.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. And will you move in special services numbers 12 through 21?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Questions?
Please.
Yes.
On item 15, it speaks to this person being appointed at $86 an hour, but it does not say for how many hours per week or what the limit is past November 24th. Is it just a normal 7-hour day, every day? 86
And Robin, you can confirm this, it's the full day. It adds up to around
It is
35.5
okay.
hours.
Yeah, they couldn't find somebody to cover, and so that they're going this way to cover for this absentee.
Okay. Item 16, as we were just requested to look at a SAC. Is that something we could table and take a look at to see if we can do that by now, or do we need to have to sign off on this, what's been presented?
I would recommend that we pass this resolution, and in the time being, we can
And then
then
we could do that.
look into another option of a full-time SAC.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
And Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes, abstain from 17.
Mrs. McLennan? Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Ms. Rubelo?
Yes.
And Ms. Case?
Yes. Alex, will you move in personnel items number 22 through 37 and A1?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Karen?
Resolution number 27, should that be Larissa Felix? It says Carissa.
Remember.
Yeah, we can adjust that.
Well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's
Check.
gotta be one, because another place she is, it's Larissa, so it's either one. I mean,
Yeah.
like, one place. you
We'll
gotta
correct it. Thank you for pointing it out, Karen.
Okay. Anybody else? Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubelo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Tom, will you move in policy numbers 38 through 42?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Mrs. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubelo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Melissa, will you move in other numbers 43 through 46?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Karen?
We usually have 2 meetings in March, because it's budget time. Do we wait till then to schedule it, or do we schedule it ahead of time?
The March meetings?
Yeah. Or,
We-
around that, don't we double up our meetings?
That
Yeah,
also
that's a
says
good catch.
March 2023 instead of 2024.
Back to the future.
Well, I didn't pick that up, but I picked up like, there's
We
only
had
one.
talked about that. We had talked that through, and Dan was part of that discussion, and we felt that we could do because the second meeting, March 16th, is typically for the preliminary budget to approve that and get it to the county. So we decided to go with that one.
And not have a
And
first-
not have the initial one 2 weeks prior, unless the board wants to change that.
Well,
Yeah, after I asked a few questions about that, because I was asking about the prior history, it sounded that it was reasonable to just have the one meeting per month.
okay.
I would say that when we did our budget this past year, that we were incredibly transparent and forward in what was coming into the preliminary budget and then the final budget. So if we feel that we can maintain that communication with this schedule, like, that would be my main concern with it.
If I remember correctly, when we were going over it, that it was pretty much repetitive, one meeting to the next.
We
And
started
that's why
much
we thought-
earlier last year,
yeah.
which I thought was wonderful.
And we're gonna try to follow the same schedule. I mean, I thought it was a great budget process, so if we follow the same schedule, we should be fine. We could always add a meeting in if we felt we needed it.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Just, can we change that to a 2024?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Roll call?
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubelo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. Okay. Any items for discussion, unfinished business from the board? Any new business? Okay. Any comments from the public?
Are we, let's not forget the addendum, right? Do we need to?
I moved it in with
Oh, you did?
personnel.
I'm sorry. I missed
That's okay.
it. Great, thank you.
I'm quick like lightning. Any comments from the public on any items? Okay, we are going to move into interview of candidates for Board of Education vacancy.
Can we take a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Can I take a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Make a motion to take a break?
All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break.
Only 2 minutes.
It'll allow people to leave.
I'm going to time it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
It's a go.
It'll allow people to walk.
I'm timing it.
Audio's on. No, it's on. It's on, we're on air. I don't know how it goes. Kim, should we keep the audio on?
You want to turn up the volume?
Mr. Alexis asked.
Yeah.
Why do I have?
You're six.
F.
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
So I was in a war.
Who am I missing?
You're on air.
It's on there, just FYI. What do you look
This is the one.
Karen one,
Yeah?
Danielle two,
Okay.
Ann three,
Here's number one.
Alex four. Tom, five, please.
I'm 5?
Yeah,
5 for what?
the question. Question number.
Okay, call it out, okay.
Melissa six. Do I have, okay.
Since the, actually.
All right.
Oh, you remember, okay.
Yes,
Yes, we know.
okay. So, I just want to make sure that we have the candidates. So Brady Dillon, okay. Omar Aftag, how do I say your last name? Baig, okay. Crystal Marr, okay, and Justin Foster, okay, great. Thank you, guys. Thank you for applying. Thank you for
Yes.
being here. We appreciate it. So the way that we're gonna do it is, we are just gonna go in alphabetical order by last name. And we're gonna ask a series of questions. We're gonna have the candidate come up to the microphone. We'll ask the questions, and then when we're done, you'll leave. In the meantime, the other candidates, we're gonna ask you to wait in the hallway, just so that we have some separation. After everybody's done answering the questions, we're gonna go in private session and discuss the interviews, and then come back, and we anticipate taking action at that time. It's a little late, we're sorry, it takes a
Yeah.
little time, just a lot going on. So can then I have, Mr. Baig? Yes, he's gonna start, and then could I have everybody else wait in the hallway, please?
Madam President, I'm going to close this.
Okay, thank you.
It's cold.
Just closing the door.
Gotten my hoodie.
I know. It's cold.
Freezing.
It's cold, yeah, he's closing the door.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. We're just gonna jump in and just get started.
Sure.
So we're gonna race through, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna start, each of us has a question to ask you. I mean, we were just chatted about time limits, but I feel like it would really only be like 2 or 3 minute answers, but I'm not gonna limit you to anything, but I think you probably can work through. We have, and just so you know, point of reference, we have 7 questions.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so that probably helps. So Karen, let's start with you.
Okay, we obviously got all your material, you know, the introductory letter and your resume, but can you tell us why you want to be a member of this particular Board of Education?
There's always scope for improvement, and I think as an advisor working now for Cigna for about 2 years, I realized that every school, you know, whenever you start school September, there's always going to be something that needs work. And obviously, I seeked opportunity. I looked at, you know, their empty seats. People are leaving. They're going away. So I have 4 kids, and I definitely take pride in raising them the right way. And this was an opportunity for me to basically step in and help you all and help my kids make it a fun space again, school.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. What specific skills would you bring to the board?
So I currently work with IT in my space, healthcare, but I also work on security, target hardening, specifically with houses of worship. So I work as pro bono with New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. They have a chapter called Interfaith Advisory Council. I bring all the faiths together, not just the book religions, Abrahamic religions, but everyone together to make sure nothing like what happened in New Zealand should happen here. We're working hard, but there's more in homegrown terrorism now than ever, statistics show. And whether it's after insurrection or just soft targets, schools and houses of worship are soft targets. We need to invest in the infrastructure, whether it's school buses, schools facilities itself, teachers, trainings. Like the gentleman before, he said, Eric, I believe he said, you need suicide awareness, some guidance counselor. That's 100% needed. So students and kids are the next level that we need to be investing in, and I 100% agree with that. That's where I stand, and that's the skill set that I have on top of my IT skill set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you please give specific examples of your experience working as part of a team?
Absolutely. So currently I worked on a recent project with House of Worship in Basking Ridge, which was already a target for hate crime. I collaborated with New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness for target hardening grant. I was given an okay for a federal grant worth of $150,000. And then I applied for another state grant for another $100,000, which is in process, generating a couple of reports, including VRAs, which is vulnerability risk assessments. I also generated a lot of pictures, a lot of evidence-based information to report to state and Fed, and able to for us to get that grant money. And it was a collaborative effort between me, other houses of worship, and also, local PD and New Jersey Office of Homeland Security. So that's, getting on the timeline, time schedule. Hey, we have a strict, deadline. Okay, the house of worship is open during Ramadan or some other festivities. So we have to work around, and everyone is working on the house of worship specifically as a volunteer. So it's very hard to collaborate, but sometimes email work, sometimes picking up a phone call, text works, creating a group chat. So there shouldn't be an excuse for not communicating. You're welcome.
Good evening, thank you.
Good afternoon.
What do you see as the role of a school board member?
First, as if I get to be this on the board, to understand what's needed, and I have a doer mentality, so I just want to get work done. Put out contingencies. Okay, we have Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. What works best and in what amount of money? Like we're talking budget, right? So in $25,000, what could be more efficient and effective? So we, kill the bird with two stones, not really literally, but, hitting the targets. So that's my goal, to understand, to absorb what's needed and how do we get there?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, sir. You're going to get thanked like 7 times. Thank you again for coming.
You're welcome.
I think you've touched on this, but can you please describe your previous community or nonprofit experience?
Yes. So as I mentioned, recently I worked with the House of Worship, but also working at Interfaith Advisory Council, I get to hear issues like, hey, we're having a vigil. So my approach, being the youngest member when I joined Interfaith Advisory Council, was rather standing in vigil. Before that, let's break bread. Let's sit together, talk. Why so different when we're the same? So, so let's break. And I have an open door policy. My neighbors leave their kids at my house, because they're comfortable, and I leave my kids to their house. If something happens, we communicate. Kids are kids. Yes, security is important, but at the same time, people are also people. Emotions are there. Kids are there. Whenever kids are involved, emotions are there. So we want to make community a safe place. Utilize maximum funding that is available, free. If reports need to get made, let's make those reports. If pictures need to be taken, let's take the pictures. Specific events need to be held around the year, let's do that for training purposes. We offer them in houses of worship. We also ask doctors that could be available in the house of worship, especially during COVID, to send, evites or e-scripts for blood work, for COVID testings, for people who don't have insurance because they lost their job. So, bringing all the resources from everywhere and asking them, hey, could you please help in dire situation. So that's how, this is going back to COVID days, but since COVID is over, whenever we need them, we utilize and we tap into those resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
What other areas would you like to strengthen in our district?
Don't say transportation. No. I'm just kidding.
No, I think my, so I want to share this little story. I grew up in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Fun place, tourist place. But I also traveled the world. I lived in Pakistan, and I studied over there. And I understood, schools are losing their fun element. Learning isn't fun anymore. It's getting stressful. So the gentleman before that mentioned guidance counsel is very important. And after school is college, the biggest thing. Whether it's student indebtedness because of student loans, or it's just stress of college, competitiveness. That's a real thing. And then you have, responsibility to pay off your loans. Can you afford to get a house or your car? And right now, to be honest, student loans are at a higher rate than getting a brand new car. So in a nutshell, we want to make learning and schooling fun again. That's my goal. When students are having fun and they go back home, tell their parents, parents are happy.
Okay. Are you aware of the time, training commitments, and ethics law disclosures required for school board membership?
Correct.
You are? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you send in Brady? Dylan? Yeah.
Do we have to use this?
No.
I was going to fill it in later. I'm just taking notes now.
Yeah, well, that's fine too. Did I do the right alphabetical order? I did, right?
Just for us.
Yeah. Hello.
Welcome.
So, hi. So we're gonna each ask you a question.
Each of you, so like 8 people? Go ahead.
Yes, yes. Well, 7.
Sure.
Yeah. But we will each ask you a question, and then I would say like 2 to 4 minutes. I'm not gonna stop you, but you have 7 questions to answer,
You should
so that
probably
gives
stop
you
me.
like
I could keep going.
a point of reference.
Mr. Alexis knows me.
Okay. So let's start with Karen, please.
Sure.
Excuse me. Why do you want to be a member of this particular Board of Education?
Let me flip back prepared for that one, so I do have notes on that one. Well, I have been a lifelong advocate for public schools. I've built my career on advocating for public schools. I am a board certified behavior analyst, and what I've done I've been a district behavior analyst for 6 years out of my career, but I've primarily been a consultant in working with districts to build up their special education programs to keep kids in their local public schools, to really help districts build up and expand their programs so that kids didn't have to be sent out of district. I think it's really important to keep as many of our students, whether they're neurodiverse or general education, with their community. And especially small pre-K-8 districts, don't have as many resources and don't have as many programs. So, being here in Long Hill and having previously worked in Watchung around the corner, getting to know the communities in the sending districts and in this area, I really am passionate about, working with the board and working with the district on, providing services for this community and keeping as many of our students here in this, here in district and building up the programs. And also, I've learned through the years in working in education that not all parental requests are reasonable. And that we need the board, I think it's really important to really look at what some parental requests are. And I feel like being on the other side and spending, 15 plus years in public education, I've been, on that side of it. I've helped write policies. I've helped write curriculum. I'm currently getting my master's in educational leadership. I've been in teachers union. I've also worked in positions where I wasn't part of the teachers union and saw some of the faults of teachers unions. So I feel like I've, just been on any and which sides of public education, but I'm also a parent of 3 young children, the oldest of which is 4, so not quite school age. So I have 3 that are coming up and on the cusp of being in the school district. So I really kind of am looking forward to being part of something that is going to be a huge part of my family's life and wanting it to be, the best it can be. I also know that, we might not be the most culturally diverse community, but we are economically diverse, and not all families have the ability to choose different options for their child's education. So I want to make sure that the families that don't have any other option other than public school, that our public school district is able to be comparable and, meet the needs of the families that don't have any other options. Like, I want our district to be just as good as any other private school, Catholic school options in the area. I don't want this to be just the only option that they have and have it be just like the second-rate option. I want them to be proud to send their kids to our public schools. I want, I want us to have that reputation, like the Basking Ridges and the Summits, where, you're moving here to choose to send your kids to Long Hill Public Schools. And that regardless of your financial abilities, that this is where you're choosing to send your kids because you're gonna get an amazing education. And, we're kind of on the cusp of that. Like, it's, people are still kind of making that choice of one or the other, but I think that we really, are on the cusp of having people move here specifically for that, and I really want to be part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. What specific skills would you bring to the board?
Well, not only, so like an example, like from like a finance standpoint, when I consulted with the East Orange School District over the course of 2 years, I helped build up their autism program, and they saved $1.8 million over the course of 2 years, exclusively on the programs that I built in bringing back kids from out-of-district schools. So I worked with the superintendent and the director of special ed and the 2 supervisors of special ed on really identifying what programs, what staff training, what staff to hire, what programs to build, and really just looking at what was feasible, what their budget was, and over the course of that 2 years that I consulted for them, it was exactly $1.8 million that the district was able to save in tuition that they were currently spending and transportation to send those students out of district. So from a finance standpoint, even though we're on a smaller scale, I do know that we do have students that are out of district, not to say they shouldn't be, but we can kind of look at our special education department and look at what our programs are and see if there's any ways that we can enhance programs that we do have and maybe meet needs of students that we are currently paying to send out. I also think that from a policy standpoint, the last time I was standing at a podium, I was actually also standing in front of Mr. Alexis, pitching a policy revision, because I, do have written policies in 2 different districts, and I have pitched them to boards of ed, and I'm very passionate about, updating policies and, ensuring that we are always meeting the needs of our students and our community, and making sure that the policies are also in line with what's important to our families and our parents. I think that also getting opinions from the parents and from the community members is really important, but number one, we have to make sure that the policies are in line with the most recent data and educational strategies, because things, being an educator, things are really changing. So when it comes to the most recent information about how students learn, the science behind different strategies and all of that, like, we really need to stay on top of that. And I think that with my education and my background and my experience working in public school in all these different leadership and administration roles, and being on child study team, I just think that I would kind of bring, I guess, experience to all those different types of committees.
Thank you.
Could you please give specific examples of your experience working as part of a team?
Sure. Well, like I said, so I've been part of the child study team for 15 plus years. The first 7 years was as a consultant role, so districts would hire me to come in and actually be a child study team consultant or consultant to the director of special ed, and I would come in and I would do a needs assessment, and then I would actually work with the leadership on what changes and things they can make, and we would actually work as a team on that aspect. And then I'm also a member of the Junior League of Summit, so I've been through a lot of leadership training and a lot of I'm on a committee there, and I've been a committee chair there as well. So I've just been part of, actually my entire career has been being a member of a team. I've never been in a part of my career where I've had to work solo. I've always had to be, members of IEP teams, members of, staff meetings, all those types of things. I've never worked solo in anything I've done career-wise, or, out doing volunteer work. I mean, that's a huge part of what I do in my free time.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming in.
Of course.
What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Well, I think it's the liaison between the families and the community, and the school district itself, whether it's, Mr. Alexis, the teachers, there needs to be, it's the leadership that is, making the decisions that is going to lead the direction of the school. As a board member, you have to, take away your personal biases, whether it's for your own family or your own children that are in the district, and look at the overall picture of what is best for the community and for all the students. So you really, are taking on the responsibility of, looking at whatever the decision is that's in front of you, whatever the problem is that's in front of you, and, working with your other board members and colleagues and deciding what is best for all the students that are in the community.
Thank you again. Please, in your own words, describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Sure. Like I mentioned before, I'm a member of the Junior League of Summit. And the Junior League of Summit is a volunteer organization that works to empower leadership skills of women. I'm a third generation member, and I've held leadership positions there, and it's monthly volunteer work, and I go to leadership trainings, and every single month there's a leadership workshop. I've been a member for 7 years, so that's a lot of leadership training as well, and a lot of volunteer work. So I'm very passionate about connecting with those women. Most of the women are also on other boards, so that's another reason why I, sought this out as well, as utilizing that training really has motivated me to seek out, being part of a board and utilizing that training, and realizing that even though there's a lot of very strong women on this board, I think it's also important to, have our voices be heard, and, kind of make our, utilize skills that we have as women, and not kind of, just sit back and utilize social media in other ways. I think it's kind of pointless. So, if we have strong ideas and make a difference by getting out there and actually, utilizing those skills.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district?
So I was on the preschool committee actually with Danielle, and it was really eye-opening, I think, getting to know, it was like we focus a lot on the grounds and the buildings. And so there was a lot of discussion about like what improvements we can make as far as maybe doing like a referendum or something about doing like an addition on Gillette, or like where we could expand space. So I think that more discussions about universal preschool is needed, and what steps we would need to expand our preschool program. I think that that was a discussion that I think got a little bit lost when Dr. Mucci left. I think that that should be revisited, and how we can do that, whether it's going to be using community preschools or whether we are going to do an addition on Gillette or move the first grade over and move, there's so many things that we kind of, I think, had great ideas. Our committee had great ideas, and I feel like the conversation kind of ended with just, we're not going to do anything right now. So I would like to reopen that conversation if I was a board member, and possibly even lead that discussion, because I was so passionate about it. And then I was like, where did the conversation go? I came from I worked under actually Jerry Colon. She was my previous supervisor, and then George was my next supervisor in South Orange Maplewood, and they have universal preschool, and they're up to something crazy like 38 preschool classrooms or something all over the community. And so I have a lot of experience with universal preschool, because I was there when they had no universal preschool, no preschool at all. And then I was there when they had 5 preschool classrooms, and then all the way through. So I've seen them build. And then I moved to Watchung, and they don't have the need for universal preschool because it's so small. But that's something that I would love to be a part of, and looking at that preschool piece. And then again, also just because my passion is in special ed, and just looking at that piece of how can we expand or enhance our programs. Like now, Jerry's been around for a couple years now, and she's absolutely fabulous. And I worked, she was my supervisor for a couple years in South Orange Maplewood, and you guys were, amazingly able to get who, George Alexis and Jerry, who I think were the 2 best, supervisors I've ever worked for. Now you guys have this dream team put together. But now just trying to look at, could we be a receiving district for other, special ed students in a way to make money and charge tuition? And is that a way that we could, be a place where, whether it's Watchung or Warren, would want to send students to us, and we could charge tuition because we have, top of, an amazing autism program, or an amazing BD program, or, a program that we're just known for being the best of something. Let's be the ones that we are known for being the best. Because right now it's, working in the area, I don't know what we're known for. It's in the special ed world, we're not known for anything. And it's just being that that's my area of expertise. It's just nice knowing, we know, Greenbrook is known for their BD program. It's known countywide that they're known for that. It'd just be cool to be known that you're really awesome at something, and that you're providing an amazing service to your local students, and you're doing it really well. And I think that not only is it a great way to save money, you can also make money that can, offset the cost of, say, your preschool program. So it's kind of all intertwined with my passions, so.
Okay, are you aware of the time, training commitments, and ethics law disclosures required for school board membership?
Yes.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
No problem.
Would you mind sending Justin in for us, please?
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you. I feel like I got frostbite on my foot.
What's Justin's last name? Where it is, Foster. Why did I? Oh.
Hello.
Welcome.
So we are going to ask each of us is going to ask you a question. We have 7 questions in total, so you know, and we think it'd be 2 to 4 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes per question.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm not going to cut you off, but just, we're going to start with Karen.
Why do you want to be a member of this particular Board of Education?
Yeah. So I just moved to the district probably about 2 years ago. I have 3 kids, a 5-year-old who just started at Gillette, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I've always said I want to be part of whatever they're doing, whether that be the PTO or the education foundation. I've always felt that I want to give back. I want to be part of whatever it is that they're a part of. I want to show them that things don't just happen. You got to earn them. You got to work for them. And so for me, it's about showing my kids what it looks like to give back to a community that you take something from. Every time you go play outside, every time you go play with a neighbor, they're part of the community, and you have to be part of building up and cultivating that community as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. What specific skills would you bring to the board?
Yeah, so I'm an HR executive at a mortgage insurance company, and so I specialize in things like talent acquisition, executive recruiting, diversity, equity, and inclusion, learning and development, HR communications. My resume has all that. So I think that when you think about the most important asset in this district is our teachers, our educators, our staff, our paraprofessionals. That's the human capital that we have to manage on a regular basis. And we spend a lot of time on the financial capital because that's important, right? That's important to the taxpayers, but also the function of those dollars into the human capital is what I do for a living, and it's what I love to do. How do you get the most out of people? How do you make sure people are engaged? How do you make sure people want to continue to show up and invest in your child? I think that's important, and I think that's what I bring to this board.
Thank you.
Can you please give specific examples of your experience working as part of a team?
Yeah. So I served on a board similar to this for 6 years. The reason I left that board is I was term limited. I was elected twice. I served, and that was a fraternity board. So served as with brothers and friends, and sometimes those conversations got heated. But we always said we're going to be courteous in expression and urbane in deportment, which basically just means that we have each other's back. We're gonna disagree because that's what makes a better product or services or service. And that team, I was sad to leave. Right, it's not a board that you can continue to operate on, but you can take a break and come back. That's one team that I say that I cherished and also taught me a lot in my short tenure. And then I did some sports in high school and things like that I would draw back to.
Thanks for coming
How
in.
am I on time? Am I doing okay?
No, you're fine. Thank you for that.
So what do you see as the role of a school board member?
Yeah, primarily policy making, an ear, advisors to the superintendent, and fiduciaries for the taxpayers. Those are the most important things. But I would also say, most of us are, at least I am, a parent, and we see the product and the quality of the product on a regular basis, and I think it's important for us to speak to that as much as we can to the folks in the administration that we come in contact with. And so primarily a policy-making board, a sounding board for the community, for the parents to come in and share their perspective, and for us to take action on that. But policy-making and an advisor to the superintendent are primarily.
Thank you.
Thank you again, sir. Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experiences.
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on the board experience that I had. That was nonprofit. We managed about $50 million in assets, and that's housing and that's staff. That staff was about 60 people, so staff was not quite as big as, say, the district. But we had 125,000 constituents, 10,000 undergraduates. And one of the things that we were focused on is bringing the cost of a fraternity experience down. And so if you've ever been a fraternity and sorority member, or even just some club members in college, they tend to be really expensive. And so one of the things that was really important to us was access to those opportunities. And so we were able to reduce the cost by a third to join our particular fraternity across nationwide on average, varied by chapter. But that was really important because we were, I would always call it service, because we served at the pleasure of our constituents who elected us to those positions. And it was important that we continued to always have that in mind, that we're here to serve.
Sorry. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district?
One of the things that I think is upon us that we have to talk about and think about is things like generative AI, ChatGPT, and things of that nature. I think there's two things that we need to think about when we think about those things. One is the in-classroom impact of that. How do we know that our students are actually learning if they can type in the question to ChatGPT and get a pretty reliable answer sometimes? So I think that's one side of it, academic integrity, and how we're going to continue to manage that. The other side of it is how do we get responsible use out of our staff, faculty, and administrative personnel? Because I tend to believe generative AI is not going to replace a lot of people. I believe that people who use generative AI are going to replace those who don't, because I think those people are going to be faster, more efficient, more productive, and I think we can be good fiduciaries as well as good stewards if we educate our workforce on the proper use of those tools and get the productivity impact out of it earlier than maybe some of our peers.
Are you aware of the time, training commitments, and ethics law disclosures required for school board membership?
Yes, so I am actually on the ballot in November. I was planning to run, and but this opportunity came up, and so I decided to see what came of it here. But yes, I'm aware.
Okay, thank you. Can you send Crystal in for us, please?
Sure, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so we each have a question for you.
Okay.
And so we have 7 questions in total, and we're kind of saying like 2 to 4 minutes per question, but I'm not going to cut you off, but that seems to be working out for everybody.
Great.
Okay, let's start with Karen.
Why do you want to be a member of this particular Board of Education?
So I have a 2nd grader and a 4th grader at Millington. I've been in education for 18 years now. I'm in Summit at the board office. You have my resume. But one of the things that's interesting and new to me in the state of New Jersey is that where I work is not where my children attend school. And that's just how it was in the South. And so it's become challenging for me not to be involved in my children's education, and I believe very deeply in service to my community. I believe that as an educator, I believe that as a mother, I believe that as a community member, and so in my opinion, this is absolutely one of the best ways to give back and to be involved and to make positive change in a community, is to serve on the Board of Education, where not only my own children, but everyone that exists in the community is learning and growing, and they're going to stay here because this is a fantastic community. And it seems to have long, generational roots, and people come here and they stay here. And so ensuring that they have access to an equitable and excellent education is core to what I do, but really to who I am.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. What specific skills would you bring to the board?
So I think obviously my experience in education, I've been in the classroom, and K-8 is my love, so not so much the high school. It's great too, but really my strength was in curriculum, human resources at the elementary and middle level. I've also served as a school administrator, so I'm really aware of school-based issues that exist, and commend ours. We have a wonderful group of administrators. And then additionally, I am aware of board and governance and what it means to serve on a school board, not only in how we interact with the community, but how we interact with the stakeholders throughout. And so I do feel like I have extensive knowledge of curriculum, human resources, personnel matters, and it's something that I deal with in my job on a daily basis. And so it's something that I feel like I would bring here. I will also enter in that I am overseeing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in our school district. And I think that today, that understanding how to encourage and ensure access within a system
has been, it's different. Sometimes it's challenging to understand that it's an apolitical environment in education, and that we really are, and we are working to ensure that students have access to the learning standards, and that's our job, to keep them safe and to keep them whole. And so I think those are some of the things that I could bring to the table.
Thank you.
Please give specific examples of your experience working as part of a team.
Wow. Okay. So I like that question a whole lot. I funny when I have my new job, I have an office, and it's the first time I haven't been in a school building, and so I was by myself a lot, which was really uncomfortable. I'm a huge believer in collaboration and collaborative teams and that kind of decision making. So a specific example, I think something recently that we did for our opening, we had our opening day and our day back with our staff, and so we really wanted to ensure that students were the focus of that. So often we get lost in the theory and the pedagogy, that we really wanted to focus on students. So I worked collaboratively with our administrative team, our communications officer, our superintendent, and we put together a vision initiative, and every student by name, by strength, and by story. And the trust, like we created a video, the administrators talking about experiences they'd had in education when they were in school, stories and kids and things that have touched their heart, and really like focusing on the why. So they had to be very vulnerable. I asked for a little bit of extra vulnerability in the video. And so the trust that I think that we all had to build with one another to be able to make it what it ultimately was huge. So I had to trust that everyone was going to take their piece and do what they were supposed to do with it. And they had to trust one another and the team that we were going to package what we were doing in a way that shined the light on them as they would want to be seen, right? And that was really important. So I think it takes a long time to foster and to build that, and I think that those relationships have to be built very intentionally. But when they are built very intentionally, like I have to say, like really amazing things can happen, and our opening was something that I think is very special.
Thank you.
What do you see as the role of a school board member?
I see the role of a school board member as obviously the first and foremost governance and ensuring that students in the school district are have access to an equitable and excellent education. I understand that policy development is core to what we do, board members in partnership with the school district. I think that tonight is a really good display of what a school board has to do, because these are the sort of situations that happen and are thrust upon us, and sometimes like even the best laid plans can have transportation issues. And so in that, the school board's role, I appreciate I can tell like there's a really good partnership here between the board and the district, and I think that those board-district relations are super important. And so ensuring that there is, budgetary oversight, policy development, the health and safety of students, personnel, really learning how to ask the right questions to assist and help a school district be the very best that it can be. Sure.
And thank you once again, and thank you for taking the time to hang around for a little while.
Oh, that's my
Last
kids
but
are in
not
bed.
least.
It's fine.
Yeah, right.
They're asleep. They're good. Dad had to do bedtime duty tonight.
Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experience.
Could you repeat that for me?
Please describe your previous community or nonprofit experience.
Sure. So I think I said before, I hail from Florida. And when I was in Florida, I worked as a teacher in a school district. And we I worked with the union on a lot of fronts, and so we did a lot of advocacy work. We did a lot of work with our state legislators and lobbying and policy and sorts of those things. But I think one of my favorite things that I did, we had I was on the Panhandle in Pensacola, and so we developed a youth citizens board. And so what we did is we had students from a lot of different places throughout the county. It was a very impoverished area, and so we had students that lived like 12 minutes from the beach who never got to see the beach. And so what we did is we took this citizen advisory board, and we worked with the youth in our community to come to school board meetings and to teach them the public speaking and community service skills in order to really lead and grow. And so whereas my job has taken, I would say community work is ordinarily outside of that just been my job because I work with the community. I think that experience working with them there is something that I'm probably the most proud of. And, but it's always with kids. So first and foremost.
Thank you. What areas would you like to strengthen in our district?
So I've been here, unlike many of you, from what I've heard. I'm new to the area, so we've been here about 1.5 years, 2 years. And I think that this is from everything that I find, this is a very healthy school district. It's a very functioning school district. There doesn't appear to be anything here that's broken. And, but I would say, in things that I would like to see strengthened, the board goals and the district goals that passed tonight are a really good step in the right direction. That movement towards student-centered and individualized education, I think is really important, not just for my own children, but for all children, and ensuring that they have rigor and relevance in school. And so I would really say that a focus on, I understand there's a facilities upgrade and those pieces are already in the works, but just that focus really on student-centered, project and problem-based, inquiry-based learning, I think is something that I see is on the radar, but definitely something from my individual experience, which I recognize as just my own, something that I am encouraged to see moving forward in the district.
Are you aware of the time, training commitments, and ethics law disclosures required for school board membership?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just, since you're the last person here, we're gonna move into closed session. We go back there and then we're gonna talk, but then we're gonna come back out. So if you
Okay.
can just let
Do you want
them
me to
know.
communicate that message out
Could
there?
you?
I got it.
Yes.
I got it. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
The board shall move to closed session to discuss the qualifications of candidates for the Board of Education vacancy. Action will be taken upon return from closed session.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Okay.
No, that's okay, you're gonna take your laptop? Nah, nobody's gonna steal it, it's on camera. Oh, we're on.
We're still on, aren't we?
We're back on.
Okay, we're back from executive session discussing the candidates for the Board of Education vacancy. Want to thank everybody for your time and for your interest. You know, for those that were not selected, please come back again. There's other ways to get involved, and we'd be lucky to have any one of you. Anne has a motion.
Kim, I'd like to make a motion to approve Justin Foster for the vacant seat for the Long Hill Board of Education.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Oops, hold on. Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. DeJamos?
Yes.
Mrs. Daly?
Yes.
Mr. Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mrs. McLennan? Ms. Nyquist?
Yes.
Mrs. Ruvlo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Case?
Yes. So the board would like to thank all of the candidates for coming out and being willing to support our schools in this way, and congratulations to Justin for his selection tonight. Justin will be sworn in at the beginning of our next public meeting on October 2nd, 2023. The term will run from October 2nd, 2023 until December 31st, 2024. Thank you, really, thank you all.
Good job by all.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention, any noes, any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
You guys didn't make it easy on us, by the way, so thank you all for your interest.